I've met and worked with Naomi quite latterly, I suppose, and I'll never forget the day because we had an absolute rip-roaring argument the moment we met. And then we stopped having an argument because we were having an argument on the 21st of July, the day that the second set of London bombers were reported to be around. We were in a very horrific basement meeting room at what was then called the Department for Education and Skills. And we realised there were bigger things than arguing. And then we also realised we weren't arguing about anything at all. In fact, I was being tested, and I was working out, and I was sort of trying to work out who this person was, who I'd never met before, who was giving me vastly more difficult questions about all the new media technology stuff that I'd been brought into the room to talk about than just about anybody else in the new media or the old media had ever given me. So I realised belatedly that we weren't having an argument at all. I was being put through a test. One way or another, I managed to learn a lot from Naomi, so I must have either passed it or been deemed worthy of that next step. What it turned out we weren't arguing about was new technology. I think I'd been mistaken for one of those new technology sort of evangelists who just go in and say that all the new media will immediately destroy and supplant the old media. All the old media were rubbish anyway, and if you don't understand that, then you're a has-been. And it will all be much better in the shiny high technology future. I'm not one of those. I'm the sort of person who says, well, those people are usually trying to sell you something, usually a technology or a product or something else. So they behave like salesmen. And when we got past that bit, we realised we were actually both very passionate about the same thing, which was the use of media to benefit society, to bring forward learning, to do things that collectively we can do better than we can do them on our own. And Naomi had made the transition intellectually towards understanding the new media, and I'm a new media person who works a great deal of time in television and broadcast and print media. In fact, it's an interesting day for me to be here. I'm a non-executive member of the Content Board of Ofcom, who you may or may not know published their public service broadcasting review today. It's a fascinating time for rebalancing, if you like, what our media are for and what we believe, therefore, as a society. I'm fairly confident that my general view, which is that our media are more than markets and our media are more than entertainment, and that's true of websites, and it's true of television, it's true of radio, and it's true of newspapers, won't be dissented from very largely in this room. But we need a more nuanced view of how we use them, which was what Naomi and I were really arguing about. We were trying to dig underneath to the fundamentals, to the things that will persist and carry on regardless of which technology you're using. They might operate in a different way, if it's Melvin's website for In Our Time and the radio show, to if it's a television programme, to if it's Wikipedia. But deep underneath there are some values that are worth preserving, and there are some things that are worth investing in. So I think it's a fascinating time right now, in the middle of a public service broadcasting review, to be having this conversation, less than a week before the government issues a document called Digital Britain, looking at our policy, which will probably be very excited about the idea of giving everybody broadband, a universal service for broadband, and will probably largely ignore what we're actually going to do with it. And certainly not go into enough detail, and certainly not draw on to the big questions about what we want our investment as a society in our media sector to do, whether it's the BBC, Channel 4, the education investments that we make in the billions and billions of pounds. And I think that's wrong. I think the debate needs to raise, it needs to ascend beyond the protection of individual institutions, whether it's the BBC or anybody else, or Channel 4, and we need to work out what we want our media to do and what the new settlement for our media should be, our public service media. And that will involve harnessing multiple technologies, and it will involve getting back to the basics of what we want them to achieve, whether it's social objectives, whether it's educational objectives, whether it is commercial objectives. But it has to be rebalanced. And my argument with Naomi turned out to be all about trying to find the same balance, trying to find something that was persistent, something that was worth fighting for. And I think it's a fascinating and delightful night to be starting the next phase of the fight. And I hope we are. Thank you for the invitation.